Now, most of us here in this room most likely have had our fair share of opportunities to use our talents. Are we? And if we are we also working to free others and give them the same chances that we have? Now, perhaps a start in this direction is to strip away the ideologies and the party politics and to bring everything down to the most human of levels. And to tell you what I mean, I'm going to share a personal lesson that I learned towards the end of my mom's life. Now, my mom was sick for 3 years, so I was told theoretically that I had all that time to prepare for her death. Now, I did a lot of sit-ups and push-ups, but nothing prepared me. I don't know how one prepares for such a thing. And since she passed away early this year, I am continuing to learn previously unimaginable lessons in grief, sorrow, and loss. But amidst my mourning, I can't help but think about other people's feeling grief, sorrow, and loss, particularly those on the other side of U.S. foreign and economic policy. Let's say a young Iraqi mother walks to the market, and while she's gone, a bomb levels her home, a bomb paid for by us. Her parents, her husband, her children, none of them affiliated with the insurgency, are all killed. She comes back from the market. Who speaks to her grief, her sorrow, and her loss? I had allegedly 3 years to prepare, and I've had close to 7 years to process. 7 months to process. But I remain inconsolable. Why do we not relate to this woman's grief, sorrow, and loss? And why do we relate more to those who volunteered to drop the bombs than those who are living under the bombs? When was it decided that their lives matter less than ours? Where did we get the audacity to feel so superior? And it's not just military murders. As I mentioned earlier, every 2 seconds a human being starves to death. That's more grief, more sorrow, more loss, more anger, more frustration. There's a line in the song Middle of the Road by the Pretenders in which Chrissie Hynde sings, "When you own a big chunk of the bloody third world, the babies just come with the scenery." Well, speaking of babies, UNICEF tells us that 1 in 6 of the planet's children are severely hungry, that 1 in 7 have no access to health care, 1 in 5 have no safe water, 1 in 3 have no toilet or sanitation facilities at home. UNICEF tells us that 29,158 children under the age of 5 die each and every day from preventable causes. So the next time you're at a sporting event or perhaps a concert, glance around and get a feel for what 29,158 looks like. And then try your best to conceive of the feelings of grief, sorrow, and loss inspired by that many preventable deaths each and every day. And there's a line in the U2 song that says, "Their lives are bigger than any big idea." These are human beings, they're not statistics. They feel as much as you and I. They cry, they mourn, they miss loved ones, and they ask why. When the UN tells them that the basic nutrition and health needs of the world's poorest people would only cost $13 billion a year, a mere fraction of what the United States spends on war. Now, the question of the millennium so far has been, why do they hate us? I'd say we give them a pretty good reason every 2 seconds and a million more reasons every minute. Just think, how much of your tax money was spent on war while I stood up here babbling on tonight, and how many children did we lose tonight? The historian Howard Zinn once said, "I wonder how the foreign policies of the United States would look if we wiped out national boundaries, at least in our mind, and thought of children everywhere as our own." Well, here's a novel idea. Instead of blowing up babies in the third world, let's start feeding them, and respecting them, and loving them. Yes, loving them. As Che Guevara said, the true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love. And if Che was right, comrades, the time is long overdue that we start showing the world some revolutionary love. I want you to remember that the most powerful force in the world is not the U.S. military, the U.S. economy, the U.S. culture. The most powerful force in the world is you. That's why they're working so damn hard to pacify you, and that's why they're working so damn hard to take away your rights. But I say if they want to take away our rights, we should work hard to take away theirs. Their right to pollute, their right to exploit, their right to wage war, their right to steal, and their right to treat all living things as if they were expendable. The author Derrick Jensen once said, "One of the great things about everything being so fucked up, about the culture being so ubiquitously destructive, is that no matter where you look, no matter what your gifts, no matter where your heart lies, there's good and desperately important work to be done." This is more work than most of us, if not all of us, have been willing to do so far. But this is the type of commitment that we need. The type of commitment demonstrated by Bob Marley back in 1973, when there was an assassination attempt, politically motivated, on his life, and 2 days later he was up on stage in a giant outdoor concert, and then he was asked, how in the world can you get up here after you were nearly killed 2 days ago? His answer, the bad people trying to make the world worse never take a day off, why should I? This is the kind of focus and courage and persistence and perception we desperately need. And if it sounds radical to you, or gets you called radical, I suggest you wear that label with pride, because the Latin origin of the word radical is the same as the Latin origin of the word root. In other words, a radical is one who gets to the root of the problem. And Martin Luther King once told us, when you're right, you can never be too radical. There goes an Eastern Lowland gorilla right there. Now, I sometimes end on the Martin Luther King line. When you're right, you can never be too radical. I have a different ending tonight. I'm going to take for granted that most of you are somewhat familiar with either the book or the movie Grapes of Wrath. And it tells the story of the Depression, in particular the Joad family thrown off their farm and sent out on the road and suffering incredible indignities. And the oldest son, Tom Joad, has had enough of the indignities and he begins to fight back. But he knows that by fighting back, he's putting his own family at danger, so he needs to get away. So one night he tries to sneak out, but his mom catches him. And she goes outside to talk to him because him and his mom were like that. And she says to him, how will I know where you are? How will I know if you're okay? And his response is one of the greatest speeches in literary or film history, and has been turned into a beautiful song, The Ghost of Tom Joad by Bruce Springsteen, which incidentally, Rage Against the Machine totally rocks. Bruce Springsteen slightly embellished his answer. So Tom's mom says, how will I know where you are? And how will I know that you're okay? This is how Bruce wrote it. Tom said, Ma, wherever there's a cop beating a guy, wherever a hungry newborn baby cries, where there's a fight against the blood and hatred in the air, look for me, Ma, I'll be there. Wherever there's someone fighting for a place to stand, or a decent job, or a helping hand, wherever someone's struggling to be free, look in their eyes, Ma, you'll see me, you'll see me. Thank you for listening. Stick around, Val will be back. Oh, Valerie.